Okay, so now that we have the lines, let's resample those lines. So we have a few more points. We can't make an arch with just 2 points. So let's resample, and we should have a maximum number of segments of 4. So this will give us enough for us to do the initial setup of the arch. Now the other thing we want to do is make sure that we have a group for the tips. And I'm going to do that with a for each primitive. I'm going to say that group points, it's going to be a group called tips. So for each one of these lines, I want to have the tips as a group. And the tips is going to be equal to the first point, which is always 0, right? And the second point is going to be the number of points on input 0 minus 1. Okay, remember when you want to use expressions here, you usually have to use these backticks. So now if we kind of just, let's color tips in pink or something, we should have those in pink. Okay, so it's working. We have those points. And the reason why we need the tips is we just want to create the arch, but we don't want to change the position of the tips. Okay, so that's pretty much the only reason. So the next step is only going to be applied to the points in between the tips. Okay, so the next point is going to be also a really interesting concept that you may not be familiar with. So let's go with point per angle. And the way we're going to do this is, the idea is that we're going to have a VDB of this object, VDB from polygons. Say 0.02. And we'll use this VDB here to calculate something called the volume gradient. That's going to give us a direction that points towards the surface. Okay, so the vector is going to be, let's call it direction. So normalize volume gradient input 1. The number of the primitive of the volume is 0, and the position we want to sample is at P. So now we should have a direction. So what I want to do now is that my new position is going to be equal to my current position plus equals that direction times, let's again generate a random number, fit01 rand based on the primitive. We don't want to randomize this based on each point. We want that all points on this primitive to be offset the same. So based on the primitive number, you can add something. So plus, and they're going to be pushed out by 0.04 or and a maximum 0.1. Okay, we have something. You can push it out more. Let's go with 2 and 1. Okay, and now everything's being pushed out. That's why it doesn't look as much of an arch as we would like, because we want to apply this to everything except for the tips. Okay, so these are definitely too much. So let's go back to the previous values. So we have something being pushed out. It's still not an arch, but it's getting closer to that. So now that let's call this push out, we can resample again. That's what we'll do. We'll resample again. Let's give it a lot of little points, and let's say to treat polygons as subdivision curves. And voila. Okay, we can change the seed if some of them aren't working. It's not going to be noticeable, but if you want to kind of go lower on this, maybe this one is a bit too extreme, you can just change the seed here and it's going to give you some different distribution. or you can play with the distances between them. But I think this will be fine. Okay. And you can play with it, and you'll see that we always have our beautiful arches happening. Let's merge this with our, oh, we can actually just turn this on. No, we can't because it's not animated. Let's not use the time shift anymore. Let's offset the time shift and let's go out. And we should see at a certain point we get our electric arches coming in.